be the CISO that everybody wants to hire. You're in demand. You are getting offer letters just based on your reputation, not because you have a CV, not because you apply for the job, but you have such a strong reputation, everybody wants you to be their CISO. What is that number one skill set? Personality. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. You know what time it is. Dr. E is in the house. He is in the studio. He is pumped. He is on fire, and he's ready to share some knowledge and wisdom. Drop some mic moments, right? We're going to have some fun in this episode. And this episode is all about the skills of being a world-class CISO. I coach a lot of folks. I have a group coaching program. If you want to take your career to that next level, you want to become world-class CISO, you want to do it quicker, faster, and better than most, then you definitely want to join my program. If you want to take the slow route, you can do that too. You can go in and just listen to my free content. I'm going to always give free content. I believe many people helped me along the way, so I'm going to give free content also. So you can take that slower path, but the reality is it's a huge shift going from a security engineer to a world-class CISO. And in my early episodes, I spent a lot of time on it. And then in the last bunch of episodes, I sort of strayed away because I'm like, okay, everyone's got the point. But what I realized is they didn't. As I'm working with new students, new clients, one-on-one clients, in all my different programs, I'm noticing this trend happening again where they still have a security engineer mindset and they're trying to apply it to become a CISO. It's not working. And it's making them very, very frustrated. So what is the number one skill? The number one skill to be a world-class CISO. No one ever gets it. People are always shocked. When I sit on panels or I give keynotes and I give the answer, people always want to fight me. But every time somebody wants to fight or debate me, they'll think about it. They'll really think about it. They'll really think about it and they go, Eric, you're absolutely right. The number one skill set to be a world-class CISO and dominate your field and be the CISO that everybody wants to hire. You're in demand. You are getting offer letters just based on your reputation, not because you have a CV, not because you apply for the job, but you have such a strong reputation, everybody wants you to be their CISO. What is that number one skill set? Personality. You have to be a people person. You have to play as part of a team. The C-suite of any organization is a team of individuals that all have different knowledge sets that all come together as a team. Your CEO, your COO, your CFO, your chief legal officer, and your CISO, right? That's slowly becoming the core five in most companies. There might be a few others added in there depending on regulation. It might be a chief regulatory officer and a few others, but there's going to be 5 to 7 top core chief officers, and they have to play as a team. If they don't play as a team, the company fails. The company suffers. So yes, a CV in a CISO will get you the interview. A CV for a CISO position will never, ever get you the job because they want to meet you. They want you to meet the rest of the team. And the number one question they're going to ask is not, is this person qualified? Because guess what? They would have never brought you in for the interview if you weren't qualified. Your CV proves the qualifications. They assume you're not lying, right? It proves the qualifications. It proves you technically could do the job. But what they're going to ask each other after all the interviews is, can this person fit into our team? Can they fit in to our corporate culture? Are they going to be able to join our team and be able to contribute at a high level? Or are they going to fight the team? And they're going to always want to be right. They're going to always want to prove their point. They're going to always want to go in and push an agenda that they have. And that's why most security engineers do not become world-class CISOs. Because here's the reality. If you're a world-class security engineer, you almost always get hired on your CV. I remember when I was in the security engineer realm and I was just on fire, I would just apply for jobs. And they essentially would be like, okay, Eric, you got to come in for a quick interview because they want to meet you and make sure you're actually a human and you're normal and you're okay. But basically, you have the job, right? It's basically yours to lose because they want you for your technical skills. They don't care if you play as a team, right? They want brilliant, sharp people that they can basically put in the data center, put in the lab, throw pizza at you periodically, and you produce amazing results. So the issue is security engineers are typically trained more to be an individual contributor. They're not trained to be a team sport. Now, yes, some environments you might have a team, but even in that team, when you look at security engineers, there's still some competitiveness, right? Because everyone who wants to get promoted, everyone wants to show they're the smartest person in the room. So the way you showed up to be a world-class security engineer is going to be detrimental and destroy your opportunities of becoming a world-class CISO. Because security engineers are hired on their skill set, their brilliance, and their ability to solve problems independently. World-class CISOs are hired on their general knowledge, but on their ability to fit in with the team, play as part of the team, and ultimately help the growth of the company. When you're looking at a true CISO position, there's a lot of CISO positions out there that are basically glorified security engineers. How can you tell? If you are a team of one, if you don't have anybody reporting to you, and you have a CISO title, you're not a CISO. You're not, because there's no one to do the work, which means you're doing the work. So they're basically getting you to come to their company by throwing a title at you because that title means something to you, when in reality, you just have 4 letters. You're not a CISO. You're not a CISO if you don't sit in the executive suite. You're not a real CISO if you don't attend all of the business meetings. You're not a real CISO if you're not involved in strategic decisions like acquiring new companies and you're not in those initial meetings. I have CISOs get so frustrated all the time. We're like, Eric, our company keeps acquiring these new companies and we don't find out until after the deal is signed. And then we have to scramble and rush and try to integrate them in. And I look at them and go, okay, problem. You're not really a CISO. Because if you really were a chief officer, if you really were viewed as a chief officer of the company, you would absolutely be involved in those decisions. But the problem we're having today, and this you got to be aware of it, is more and more regulation, more and more boards, more and more companies are saying cybersecurity is so important. It's such a big issue that you must have somebody with the CISO title. So what do? They take a good security engineer and they give him the title to check the box. But they don't treat him as a CISO. They don't view him as a CISO. They're not involved as chief officers like every other chief officers. They're basically a glorified security engineer with 4 letters. So you have to realize that in order to be a true CISO, you have to step up. You have to give up the individual and start being a team player. It doesn't matter who's right. It's, are you going to win? And that's a shift. World-class security engineers are mainly focused on, I want to be right. I want to be the smartest person in the room, and I want to be right. World-class CISOs give that up. They know when it comes to business that they're not going to be the smartest person in the room. The CEO, the COO, the CFO, they have so much more business accolades than most CISOs do. So they're there to learn and contribute. So they know they're not the smartest person in the room. And their whole focus is, I don't care if I'm right. I want to win. And here's why. World-class CISOs, their salary is not that high. If you look at most chief officers at big companies, their base salary is not that high. And there's often people at the company who make a much bigger base salary. How chief officers win is based on the profitability of the company because they get bonused based on that. And that's where you hear all this criticism going on with like, well, the company wasn't this, this, and this, and they made $7 million bonus. Yeah, because guess what? They grew the company. Now, one way of growing the company is to lay off people that aren't contributing. That doesn't go over too well, but guess what? That's their job. Their job as a chief officer, it doesn't matter what letters are in between, whether it's a CEO, COO, CISO, CFO, doesn't matter. If your title begins with a C and ends with an O, your focus is on the growth of the company. That's what you're paid for, and that's how you make the big bucks, because you're bonused based on that growth. So the second skill set of a world-class CISO is you think business first and cybersecurity second, which once again, you can just see the hairs on the back of security engineers rising, and they get very tense, and they do not like that because security is the most important thing to the company. Yes, as a security engineer, that's how we want you to think. We want you to be obsessed with finding the issues and the problems and the vulnerabilities and present as many options as possible to make the organization as secure as possible. But the reality is this: every business accepts risk. Every business has to take on risk. And you can't bankrupt the company in order to make it so secure that no one can do business with you. So a chief information security officer knows that, you know something, there's going to be some security risk that we're going to have to accept. We're just going to have to. And that's why world-class CISOs know that breaches happen. Because if you think that breaches are never going to happen, you're basically under this false assumption you're 100% secure. And if you're 100% secure, guess what? You're out of business. Because 100% security means zero functionality. You are never going to run a successful business being 100% secure. It's impossible. So world-class CISOs know that, they embrace that, they understand that, and they accept risk. And then they focus their energy on prevention and detection. Let's stop the attacks we can, and in cases where we can't because we accepted that risk, let's detect it in a timely manner to reduce the overall impact. You're thinking as a business person first of how do we grow and maximize revenue for the business, and think cybersecurity second of how can we use it as a tool to maximize the business, not inhibit it. That's where so many security engineers who become CISOs get themselves in trouble, because they're so focused on security first that they inhibit the business. They actually will do things that will negatively impact the profitability of the business because they feel it's in the best interest of security to do that. You will never make it as a real CISO if that's how you think. You need to remember what CISOs always think about is simple. If cybersecurity negatively impacts the business, cybersecurity is wrong. cybersecurity must have a positive impact on the business. And this is a paradigm shift. I mean, we spend several hours, several modules in my CISO certification going through this and breaking it down and showing you how to rethink and retrain your brain and build new neural pathways to think differently and approach it differently. Because until you show up as a business person and focus on business first, cyber second, you're going to struggle as a CISO. So that's the next skill, is you need to think business. You need to understand numbers and know that at the end of the day, success is when profit and revenue increase, and failure is when profit and revenue decrease. That's basically how chief officers are compensated. That's how they think, that's how they operate, and that's why they make $8 and $10 million bonuses, because they're really good at that. So you need to be really good at that. Third skill, and it sort of ties the first two together, of being a team player, having a personality, fitting in, and being someone that people want to talk to and agree, and not somebody who's always confrontational trying to pick a fight. Second skill set is think business first. A chief information security officer is a business person who knows security. The third skill set is master the outer layers. Master the outer letters. That actually sounds a little better. Master those outer letters. Chief officer. Chief officer is your primary function. A chief officer is one that is obsessed with the success of the business. They're obsessed with growing, expanding, market domination, and becoming the absolute best in whatever field you're operating in. That's what makes chief officers so powerful and so dangerous, is because they are so obsessed with the business. Then worry about the inner letters afterwards, information security. The problem is most CISOs are so focused on cybersecurity, and it's a little c and a little o. So if it's a little c, a little o, and a big I and a big S, it's not going to work. You're not going to be a true CISO. Fourth skill set of a world-class CISO: communication, communication, communication. You have to be able to communicate with other people. Everything can't be a fight. Everything can't be, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to die on this hill. That's a quality of really good security engineers. Really good security engineers are so convinced they're right that this is the only option. We must fix this risk. It is unacceptable. Unacceptable under any circumstance to ever allow this. We have to fix this risk, and I'll die on that hill. And guess what? They often do. And that's why they get frustrated, and that's why they go in and say that, oh, nobody listens to me. You're right. Nobody listens to you because you stink at communication. You don't communicate. Communication is two-way. Communication is not you getting your way or you're going to throw a temper tantrum. It's, I'm going to exchange data with you. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to listen to the response. I'm going to get clarification and figure out what you really need. And then I'm going to present an option that actually presents a win-win, where it gets the business growing and the organization more secure. That's a superpower that world-class CISOs have. They can go in and meld those together, where they can come up with solutions that actually make the organization more money while at the same time increasing overall security. I often hear people make up these phrases that I don't know why they make them up, because there's no truth to them. You can have functionality, speed, or security. Pick one. I'm like, no, that's stupid. That's like the whole phrase. You can have your cake or eat it too. Why am I going to have a cake if I can't eat it? Right? That doesn't make any sense. Right? Of course I'm going to eat the cake. Right? It's like, come on. So we come up with these phrases that we start to believe as truth, and they're not. You absolutely can have functionality and security and performance. It's just, you have to think about it differently. You have to have acceptable parameters of what is and is not tolerable. You have to be much more creative than it's all about security, and if we don't make this 100% secure, game over. You have to be willing to communicate, to negotiate, to give up, and find a proper balance. Security engineers are going to present one option, they're going to pick a dog in the fight, and they're going to die on that hill. And I see this all the time with companies that don't have a CISO, and the security engineers present to the board. And here's how a security engineer presents to the board. There is this risk that's really, really bad. It could cost us tons of money. It could put us out of business. And you have to give me $400K to fix it. And what do you think happens almost every single time? They never get the money. And then they're angry and pissed. But here's the problem. You didn't give them any actionable information. You basically go in, and you've done this, by the way, for the last year and a half. And guess what? You haven't gotten the money, and the company never went out of business. So they just, okay, here comes security engineer. We'll just have to deal with it for 15 minutes. They're going to throw their little temper tantrum, and we're just going to hush them out because you don't have any validation. You don't have any data. You don't have any numbers. You don't have any proof. And the problem is you keep telling them that unless you give me money, bad things will happen, and bad things never happen. So they don't no longer believe you. Here's what a world-class CISO does. A world-class CISO goes in and presents the data. We currently have a situation where all of our data could be inaccessible to any of our practitioners for anywhere from 5 to 10 days. This has a 92% chance of occurring based on our environment, infrastructure, and how the attacks work. Based on similar attacks of similar organizations to ours, this will cost us about $15 million. And if we want to reduce that risk, it will cost $400K. What would you like to do? Notice, I didn't pick a dog in the fight. I'm giving the options. We can absolutely accept the risk, and there's a 92% chance we'll lose $50 million. Now, there's an 8% chance we won't, so it's not a guarantee, right? But it's pretty high. Or we can decide that that risk is too great, it has too big an impact on our bottom line, our customers, our reputation, and our stock value, and therefore it's worth the $400K to minimize or reduce that from happening. Here's when you know you've reached world-class CISO status. When you've reached world-class CISO status, they will all look at you and say, what do you recommend? And whatever you recommend is what they're going to go with. And then you know you've accomplished the previous skills. Because now they trust you as a team member, they value your opinion, they know that you're a business person, they know that you're a chief officer, and they know that at the end of the day, you're ultimately looking out for the best interest of the company. So when you get to that point where they start asking your opinion and whatever you say they go with, that's nirvana moment, right? That's when you've reached it. That's when you got to that pinnacle place that you want to achieve. And then I'll cover one more critical skill set. World-class CISOs are going to have a team. If you're a CISO for a Fortune 50 company, a multi-billion-dollar company, and you are a real CISO, you are spending most of your time in meetings. You're spending most of your time focused on the business from a mindset of security, which means you have a team of security engineers that you have to manage. You have to manage them. You have to make sure they feel like they're getting processed and they recognize, hey, I know you're smart and you're going to give me data. We're not always going to get what we want. We're going to get what we need. We don't get what we want, right? And you have to manage and control them so they still feel empowered. They still want to do their job, but they recognize they're not always going to get their way. And this is another one where most security engineers never had to manage, and they're terrible managers. They don't know how to manage. They're not people. Right? It goes back to the first one. You got to interface and be a part of a team. So where I see most CISOs struggle the most is on managing and running their team. They either do one of two things. They either, when they go to work with their team, they fall back into security engineer mode and they want to be the smartest person. So they debate and argue with their team members. Guess what? If you are a CISO, if you are going to be a world-class CISO, your security engineers better be smarter than you. They better know more than you. They better be more educated. They better stay up on the risk and vulnerabilities. You can't do both. You can't be a world-class security engineer and be a world-class CISO. You can be an okay security engineer, an okay CISO, but you can't dedicate 100% to one of those, and to be world-class, you have to. If you're going to be world-class in any area, you have to give 100% to that area. If you're only giving 80% to CISO and 20% to being a world-class security engineer, you'll never be world-class. You need a team that you trust. And then you need to know how to manage and interface and work with them. So management, people skills, right? Building camaraderie with the team to get them to work together, taking brilliant individuals that like to work by themselves and want to get the credit and want to be the smartest person in the room, and getting 20 of them to all march in the same direction, work together, and solve similar problems. That's a skill. It's magic at times. That's a skill, but that's a skill that you must have to be a world-class CISO. I see this all the time. When I go into companies and they go, Eric, we need help finding a new CISO. It'll always be one of two reasons. When I say, why are you getting rid of your existing CISO? It's always one of two reasons. Either, Eric, they're a brilliant security engineer, but they're not executive material. They don't think business. They don't understand business. They're always confrontational. They always want to get their way. They always think they're right, and they don't understand that we're running a business. They don't have the business mindset. That's number one complaint. Number two complaint, Eric, they work great with the team, the executive team. They understand. They've actually given us some very good ideas to grow the business, but nobody will work for them. They're a terrible manager. Every one of our security engineers left the company. We can't find any. Anytime we hire security engineers, they leave within 6 months. The turnover is so high that we don't have anyone to actually do the work. We don't have anyone to actually secure and protect the organization. We have a great strategy, but we can't find the technical implementers. It's always going to be one of those two. So if you want to be a world-class CISO, you have to master both. You have to be the master of business, working with executives, not focused on being right, but on winning and growing profit and revenue. And then you must be amazing at managing your team, fostering your team, and getting your team energized and encouraged to actually implement and get behind the strategy that you implement, that you get approval from for the company to grow the business, and that the security team gets behind it, believes in it, and will follow you with that strategy. If you are a business person that can manage a team, you are well on your way to being a world-class CISO. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you want to join one of my private programs, one of my paid programs, either drop me a line, ecole@secure-anchor.com, or just go to secure-anchor.com.ciso. You can sign up for a coaching call from one of my great coaches. They'll get you up to speed. They'll show you the process. They'll show you the 6-month program. And I'd love to work with you directly. I'd love to spend some time with you. And I'd love to watch your career go to that next level.